Hello and welcome to 9-inch Charge. Today we're going to do a Warscroll review having a look at the Marshcrawla Sloggoth. This is a model that I've been looking forward to reviewing for a while just because it's so interesting and unique compared to a lot of other stuff that we've got in the range at the moment. So let's have a look how it plays on the tabletop. Please be sure to drop this video a like if this is something that you enjoy, and please consider subscribing to the channel if you'd like to see more content like this in the future. There are plenty more Warscroll reviews coming up. Creeping along on all fours come the Marshcrawla Sloggoths, sniffing the air to hone in on fresh prey. On their backs are hodars full of sneaky grots banging war drums and cackling as their vile beasts catch and squish their foes. Marshcrawla Sloggoths have a move of 6 inches, a save of 4+, bravery 5, 12 wounds, and have the keywords Destruction, Oracle Clans, Grot, Troggoth, and Marshcrawla Sloggoth. They come in at a very reasonable 150 points. 12 wounds at a 4+ save is pretty hardy. At a 6-inch move, they're not the quickest for their size, especially with a big old unwieldy base. You may struggle to get them exactly where you want in combat. But although it may be a negative in terms of, getting it where you want it in combat or something like that and having to move around this big unwieldy base, later on we'll see that its ability provides a buff, and having a big base actually just increases the reach of this buff, so it's not all bad news. A Marshcrawla Sloggoth is armed with catching nets and snatcher sticks and racking claws. The catching nets and snatcher sticks have a 2-inch range, 4 attacks, 4s to hit, 4s to wound, no rend and 1 damage. Not exactly spectacular, but this is a bunch of crazy grots who have got to command this beast, bang their drums, catch their prey and attack all at the same time. The Marshcrawler's racking claws are a bit more tasty, with a 1-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend 1 and damage 2. So it's got a bit more output there, especially against your weaker targets or your single heroes with low wounds. This is going to be something that can potentially be a menace. Don't expect it to start wiping out units of Stormcast Annihilators or anything like this, but it's not too bad. As I hinted at previously, where this unit really shines is in its abilities, so let's have a look at those. First up, the Grot Snatcher crew. The Grots right atop the Marshcrawla Sloggoth are constantly on the lookout for new victims to grab and chain up. At the end of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy model within 2 inches of this unit and roll a dice. If the model is at least double that model's wound characteristic, it is slain. So what's great is that it's slain outright. It's not even mortal wounds. There's no chance to get a save or a ward save against this. It's just gone. Having to roll double the unit's wound characteristic on a d6 obviously means we're limited to units with a wound characteristic of 1, 2 or 3. This really thrives in units with a wound characteristic of 1. Because unless the dice gods really hate you, it's quite easy to roll a 2+. Now where this is really good, you can use this to break your opponent's unit coherency. As this happens at the end of the combat phase, this means that your opponent would have already piled in, they've already moved, they've already done their attacks. There's no chance for them to now reconsolidate their unit, and hopefully they will be within coherency at the moment. But this is where you want to have a look and just see if by removing one model from the unit, you can make a big difference. Because if you've broken their unit coherency, they will then have to remove models back until either they're within coherency again or the unit only has 5 models. A clever opponent will use their units so in a way that this won't be possible, so they'll bunch them all up together so that if you do remove one, they won't break their unit coherency. But what this means is that they won't be able to string their units around and get as many into combat potentially as they would like, because they've got to be wary that one's potentially going to be removed by this ability and then you'll break the unit coherency and then they'll start losing models unnecessarily. I really like this ability. I think it's great. I think you will catch people out with it, and even if you don't, it will still put your opponent at a potential disadvantage when they come to piling in, and also it makes your opponent have to think, and more things that keep your opponent guessing and kind of having to think about what they do every step of the way is just more useful in the game. You're presenting someone with a bit of a puzzle or a bit of a conundrum for free, basically. The next ability is the Crew Drummer. The drummer that rides with a Snatcher crew beats out a powerful rhythm that inspires nearby allies to fight at their hardest. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by friendly units that are wholly within 18 inches of any friendly units with this ability. I think this is brilliant, and I think this makes this unit for 150 points pretty much an auto-include in your army. Wholly within 18, I know it's a wholly within ability, so you do have to make sure and you have to be careful not to leave a man out. But 18 inches either side is massive, especially considering, again, it's on a big base. So it's got a real potential for great reach around your army to make sure that everything is getting +1 to hit. Basically, it's like being able to use all-out attack on all of your melee units with a massive radius every time they attack with their melee weapons. Now obviously that is something that you're going to want to include. This is going to paint a big target on this unit's head, however. People are going to look to get rid of this first, because by killing it, they're going to make the rest of your army less effective. Unfortunately, there's not a hero variant of this, so you can't stick the Amulet of Destiny on it for a 5-up ward, and you can't do any kind of heroic recovery. But its last ability will be really useful for this, and that is Regeneration. Being a type of Troggoth, the Sloggoth is able to regrow injured flesh almost as quickly as it is harmed. In your hero phase, you can roll a die to this unit. If you do so on a 4+, heal up to D3 wounds allocated to this unit. This is a really great ability, especially if you get the double turn. You'll have 2 hero phases before your opponent goes again, so then you'll potentially be healing 2 D3 wounds to this unit before it can be attacked again, if it's out of combat, that is. For me, for 150 points, this is a no-brainer. This isn't really too different in terms of points cost from many low-level heroes that have only got 5 wounds or something like that, but it buffs so much of your army so effectively. I'd be looking personally to keep this out of combat, having it behind your lines, but as you can see, when it does go into combat, it isn't a particular slouch. It's got some good abilities there. You know, it's got rend on its attack with damage 2, and also it's got that ability to potentially break unit coherency, so it is actually something to worry about. Which is exactly as it should be. You know, when you come across this on the battlefield or on the tabletop, you should be thinking, oh my goodness, those grabbing hands and man catcher equipment and chains and things like that are going to pull a man away, and what am I going to do about it? Just excellent writing from the rules writers. So many of the newer war scrolls are like this. They just really reflect what the model looks like and what it's about in the lore. They're just smashing it out of the park, really. But all in all, I would say for 150 points, it's a great model. It does a lot for your army. It's pretty much an auto-include as far as I'm concerned. But just do what you can to protect it by keeping it behind your lines, and watch out for those units with ranged shooting attacks, because something like Iron Drakes is just going to shoot this guy off the table in 1 round of shooting, and then you'll be left kind of unstuck. So I know it's not always possible to counter these things, but just keep an eye on your flanks and stuff like that when you're using them. Let me know in the comments what you think of this war scroll. Personally, I think it's really characterful. I mean, what better way to go into combat and to rouse your troops than by having some Grots banging some drums on the back of a massive Troggoth? If you guys are going to paint any of these up, please let me know. I'd love to see some alternate paint schemes, because when this was previewed, I don't know if you guys saw the video, my initial reaction was that I didn't really like the flesh tone of the model, the way it's painted so much. I'd rather see it painted in a kind of a green or a blue like your traditional Troggoth. So if you've got any painted up, let me know. Love to see them as well. As ever, this has been 9 Inch Charge, and I will catch you next time.